Live from Chicago, it's A Night at the Museum with Julian Siggers, Sandy Deromedi, Judy Block, Marshall Field, Connie and Dennis Keller, and the Keller family. Richard LaRiviere, Lesley de Souza, Jim Holstein, Jingmai O'Connor, Bill Parkinson, Janet Voight, Beth Glass, Linda Williams, Sue the T-Rex, and Jane Goodall.
Good evening. I'm Julian Siggers, President and CEO of the Field Museum, and it is my pleasure to welcome you this evening to our first ever virtual gala, A Night at the Museum. This is also my first gala as CEO of the museum, and I am delighted and grateful to be your host. As you just saw in the opening credits, I'm in good company tonight, and we have a very special evening in store. Being new, and in a building with 40 million specimens and hundreds of thousands of square feet, I could use help finding my way around. Luckily, I'm joined by a few of our scholars who know the museum's hidden corners, and they have agreed to show me behind the scenes tonight, and you'll get to come along. I understand you all usually have quite the party in Stanley Field Hall, and next year I hope we'll all be at the museum together. I'd like to thank the Women's Board and the Board of Trustees for organizing this year's virtual gala, and you all for helping us raise essential unrestricted funds for the Field Museum. Your support is critical this year as we manage through the impact of a prolonged closure and reduced attendance. It is thanks to your gifts that our vital research, education, and conservation programs are able to move forward. It is now my distinct pleasure to introduce Women's Board President Sandy Deromedi.
Thank you, Julian, and welcome everyone to the 2020 Field Museum Gala hosted by the Women's Board and Board of Trustees. Thank you for tuning in tonight. We have an exciting program ahead, and I'm thrilled to share with you. And a very special thanks to our premier host committee sponsors. They have made possible so much of what you will see tonight. Tonight is a celebration of the museum's research, breathtaking collections, and the scientists who make groundbreaking discoveries every day. It's also a celebration of the Field Museum conservation and two of its greatest champions, our friends Connie and Dennis Keller. And we celebrate you, our donors and friends. Your dedication and support are sustaining us during these strange and challenging days, and we are so glad you are here with us. I am delighted to share an exciting announcement. A generous anonymous donor has made a $100,000 gift to match contributions made during tonight's program. You may do so by clicking the button on your screen or by visiting the link in the description of this video. Thank you again for joining us. I now encourage you to sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Thanks, Sandy. I'm looking forward to the show myself. I'll be back in a bit, but first I'm going to find Bill Parkinson, Anthropology Curator, for a look at the museum's collections of oversized artifacts. Well, hello, Bill.
Hello, Julian.
Welcome to our first behind-the-scenes tour tonight. And I'm standing in front of the museum's Collection Resource Center. Now, this is a vast space where many of the museum's objects are stored. Unlike most museums, the bulk of the field's objects and artifacts are stored within the building. In fact, this collections center takes up 186,000 square feet. So it's huge. I'm very excited to see it.
Well, welcome. I'm very excited to show you some of our astonishing anthropological and archaeological collections today.
Wow, that's quite something.
Well, welcome. Here we are. We're in the collection resource center. This is the Anthropology oversize collection, and I always relish the opportunity to bring people down here because in one view you can see the breadth and the depth of our anthropology collections.
Are there any objects in this room that are your particular favorite?
One of my favorites is actually these storage jars here. These come from the site of Pompeii, and as you can see, this is a mend. It was the Iron Age, and up here are these Roman numerals.
All right.
Right. See the Roman numerals?
Yeah.
That's actually measuring the number of amphorae that you could put into the vessel.
What would have been stored in there?
It was Pompeii, so this is like party central for the Roman elite. So I'm guessing wine was very likely.
Yeah.
These over here, these are wonderful. These are Etruscan sarcophagi. So the Etruscans lived in central Italy, central northern Italy. They had these amazing contacts all throughout the Eastern Mediterranean. They were fascinated with ancient Greece. They were fascinated with Egyptian society. And within these tombs, you can find objects from all of those places that were brought in and left within these Etruscan burials.
Oh, this is absolutely remarkable.
Yeah, it's one of the heaviest objects in the museum, and it is a sarcophagus lid. It's just a remarkable object. And the lore is that it was all in one piece until they were unloading it from the dock here in Chicago when the rope broke, and that's when it cracked. It's very likely.
Yeah.
But I don't know. But there could be pieces of Egyptian granite at the bottom of Lake Michigan. Here we have a dugout canoe that was created in South America in the middle of the 20th century. A person actually took this boat, slapped a mast on it, put a sail on it, put a motor on the back, created an outrigger with another boat, and took it all the way across the Gulf of Mexico, up the Mississippi River, through the I&M Canal to Chicago to bring it to the Field Museum.
That's amazing. That's an incredible story.
In the 1960s.
And this is such a remarkable space. How does the public get to see some of these objects?
The public has an opportunity through Members Night to come down, but we also have opportunities for groups to come through with organized tours.
Well, thank you so much for this amazing experience of having an opportunity to come to the large object storage room.
Well, thank you for coming, and again, welcome. I look forward to seeing a lot more of you.
Great.
One of the most important reasons we are gathered this evening is to present the Marshall Field V Award for Distinguished Leadership. The award was created in 2016 to honor Marshall on his 50th, yes, 50th anniversary as a museum trustee. Since, it has been bestowed on individuals who demonstrate exemplary service and philanthropy to the Field Museum, and we have been honored to recognize Bill Gantz, the Granger Foundation, and most recently, Judy Block. We will welcome two exceptional leaders to this estimable group tonight, Connie and Dennis Keller. Let's take a closer look at their impact.
The three words I would use to describe Connie and Dennis.
Very difficult question. 3 words for 2 giants.
Whew, 3 words. So I would say approachable and strategic.
Kind-hearted.
Transformational.
They're authentic. Salt of the earth. And you're going to have to treat that as one word.
Intrepid.
A rollicking good time.
Caring of all species on this planet.
I'm a little biased, but Connie and Dennis are my heroes.
The Kellers, in depth, care about people, care about animals, and the Field Museum is a natural place for them to exhibit why they're so passionate about life.
They don't just want to know about things, they are action-oriented.
I've been at the museum for almost 18 years, and I can't remember a time that I didn't spend time with Connie at the museum.
The commitment that Connie and Dennis have made over really a lifetime to conservation on a broad scale, and then at the Field Museum is really nothing short of awe-inspiring.
And arguably the greatest gift that they've given me is modeling that lifelong love of learning.
It's been inspiring to see how Connie and Dennis don't just talk the talk, but they also walk the walk.
To me, probably the thing that most people don't appreciate about the museum is how active the museum is beyond the four walls.
The Field Museum is unique among natural history museums. It's the only one on the face of the planet that has a science action center.
This experiment started 25 years ago when we asked the question, what can a museum do for conservation?
The Kellers just got fully behind that effort.
We can use the extraordinary library of life in our collections and our deep scientific expertise to work for rapid, immediate results on the ground for conservation and quality of life.
If you think of what the field has been able to do in the Amazon basin, bringing people together and establishing millions and millions of acres of new conservation in the form of national parks and other areas that are being set aside by those governments.
Every morning I walk into the Field Museum and say good morning to 30 people who focus on getting conservation done. And that's because of the Keller's generosity.
These are, in a sense, gifts that keep on giving.
I mean, I think Connie and Dennis know this, but they did something so important in endowing this center.
There is an endowment to support the work that we do for many, many years to come. And I think about my son, who is 1 year old. When he's my age, the Keller Science Action Center will still be doing conservation work on the ground.
Nature's for everyone. It's here for all of us. They've put themselves and their generosity behind that principle.
And that, to me, is just true philanthropy when it solves problems and serves others.
Connie and Dennis are adventurers, but they also join us in these far-flung places.
I had the privilege of traveling to Guyana with Connie and Dennis and a few other trustees at the Kaitour Falls, which you can only get to by a little plane. And my favorite visual is the sight of Connie and Dennis flat on their belly, peering over the edge with their cameras and their binoculars.
This isn't everyone who does that. It's not every trustee who will jump in a river with you in a far-off jungle or tropical forest.
Oh, I forgot, I actually do have a memory about Connie and Dennis. We all went in boats at night to a lake where we went to look for river otters. And as we sat there watching the sun go down, Connie and Dennis led us in the singing of Sweet Caroline, just belting this out. They knew all the words.
Dennis's favorite activity in life is listening and engaging Neil Diamond. My whole life has changed because I do nothing but listen to Neil Diamond music now.
It has been such joy and privilege to be in this journey together, growing, learning, and collaborating, being able to see something come to fruition the way it has.
I hope both of them and Jeff and Molly and all their descendants stay involved in the museum as long as they can. It's been amazing to have them be a part of this.
Connie and Dennis are very deserved of recognition, and they'll shy away from the recognition, but they deserve it.
Connie and Dennis, I don't know what we would do without you.
Thanks, Connie and Dennis, for everything you've done.
I know you've put your heart and soul and intellectual passion into it, as only you can do.
You've been real models, both in your leadership, your commitment, your generosity.
Thank you for everything you do, and congratulations.
Thank you and congratulations, Connie and Dennis.
Thank you so much, Connie and Dennis. It's been a beautiful journey together, and thank you for the friendship.
Good evening, everyone. I may be retired and stopped shaving, but that isn't going to keep me from joining you in the gala this evening. Some of you have heard me say before that being the CEO of the Field Museum is the best job I ever had. I know why. It's the community of supporters and enthusiasts like you. Connie was co-chair of the Action Center while I was aboard the Field Museum in the early days, and eventually became chair of the Board of Trustees. I relied heavily on and cherished her relentless optimism, kindness, wisdom, and warmth. Her cheerful leadership brings people together all the time, fosters collaboration and harmony, the very characteristics that uniquely define the work of the Keller Science Action Center and the field in general. Dennis is Connie's greatest cheerleader and also a very gifted leader in his own right. He relishes the opportunity to explore big ideas and address the world's most vexing challenges. They are remarkable philanthropists and civic leaders. Connie and Dennis, we fondly remember the time that Jan and I spent with you in Peru, Guyana, Nantucket, and all the great natural history museums that we visited from coast to coast here in the United States. Jan and I send you our love and our hearty congratulations on the well-deserved, very well-deserved award that you're receiving this evening. And now I'd like to introduce two equally generous Field Museum leaders and past recipients of the Marshall Field the Fifth Award, Marshall Field and Judy Block.
Thanks, Richard. Hello, I'm Judy Block, and I am glad to be here with my friend Marshall Field to recognize Connie and Dennis Keller. Tonight, I have the privilege of sharing more with you about the museum's highest honor, the Marshall Field the Fifth Award for Distinguished Leadership. In 2016, the Board of Trustees established the award to recognize Marshall on the 50th anniversary of his service as a trustee. In the mold of Marshall Field I, who founded the museum, and Stanley Field, who served as president for a remarkable 47 years, our Marshall has been a tireless champion for the museum for 54 years. Like Marshall, Connie and Dennis Keller have been stalwart supporters and friends. Connie joined the Women's Board in 2003 and has been a trustee since 2005. Early in the Because Earth campaign, Connie and Dennis were among the first to declare their confidence in the museum with a $10 million gift to endow the Science Action Center. Today, the Keller Center is an internationally recognized leader in collaborative conservation from the Andes Amazon to the neighborhoods of Chicago. Marshall, it is great fun to present this award with you because the Kellers are great friends of us all, and they have even survived a fishing trip with you, if you can imagine that, and I can understand.
That's true, Judy, and they did survive. I'm not sure if I asked again if they wouldn't head for the hills, but anyway. But I want to thank you for helping me introduce this. Personally, I'm sad because this will be the first third Saturday in October in my memory that we haven't had the Women's Ball at the Field Museum. 125 years after Marshall Field I helped found the Field Museum, the scientists, educators, and curators here have experienced a profound shift in the focus of their work. From restoring nature in our city to conserving nearly 30 million acres in South America, to studying how pathogens and pandemics evolve, the impact of the Field Museum has never been greater. Connie and Dennis's philanthropy is chief among the reason the Field Museum is the scientific juggernaut it is today, and I am pleased to honor them with this award. Hi, Connie and Dennis. It's a great privilege for me to present to you the Marshall Field Fifth Award for Distinguished Leadership at the Field Museum. And to help us do so, we felt it wouldn't be appropriate not to have a few guests.
Carrie?
Surprise, surprise, congratulations. Well, there's Tim.
Oh my heavens. Well, this is great fun, you guys. Thank you for taking the time.
Okay. Well, if you look right behind me, and we were very hard to highlight this. You see our famous fighting elephants, and they are a little larger in Stanley Field Hall, but they are very elegant, and this is a scale model of our famous duo. Connie and Dennis, the award is ready for you as soon as you're back in town.
Well, Judy, you can see that the elephants zoomed in right behind us.
Cheers to all of you. And thanks.
Here, here, cheers.
Here.
Cheers to all of you. Thank you. Truly, Dennis and I are honored by this prestigious award. It represents all that's great about the Field Museum. We thank you for your faith in us. It all started with Judy Block, John McCarter, and Withrow Meeker. Connie joined us at the Field. I knew nothing of the Field's vast collections. I didn't know about Members Night with my grandkids and the late wonderful Bill Stanley for Blood and Guts.
Oh,
for Lichen, Janet for Octopus, Bruce for Lions, to name a few. The fun of being behind the scenes, exploring the collection and speed science. It's all based on our 40 million specimens. I learned that research, science, and curiosity are thriving at the Field. As a trustee, we traveled to New York to the American Museum of Natural History and the LA Museum of Natural History to learn from other museums. What do they do? How to make us better? We traveled to Peru, Guyana to learn what the Field was collecting and why it's so important to our understanding of the world. We hiked, birded, witnessed the biodiversity, and met and stayed with the people in their eco-lodges. Learning never stops at the Field. I've always loved nature and grew up in the woods in Oak Brook. The lure of the Amazon and scientists dropping out of a helicopter into one of the most diverse landscapes to record the biological inventory is so exciting. But the spark that makes the field science relevant is our anthropologists working with the indigenous people from the ground up to see what they want for their quality of life in that landscape. The quality of life and biological inventory reports are presented to the governments of the countries, and hopefully land is protected. It takes many active partners to accomplish this work and declare a landscape protected and measured. The same formula works in Illinois. The quality of life in Oak Brook, Calumet, Kankakee, and Chicago is important. We work with partners to designate green spaces and the quality of life for the people. Debbie, Corrine, Amy, and her team are celebrating 25 years of conservation at the Field. 30 million acres conserved, and now envision entire river corridors protected in the Amazon. Chicago will have a greener future. It is a thrill to be part of this dynamic team and cheer them on. Here's to the action team at the Field and their vision, dedication, and patience. Our conservation expertise is brilliant, and Dennis and I ride on their coattails. I hope you can feel my passion for the Field. And Citrus kellerae is a fish found in Guyana and new to science and bears my name. Thank you, Lesley. Dennis and I are humbled by this award and feel over-honored. Thank you to the Women's Board for creating this moment. And here's Dennis.
Thank you, Connie, and thank you, everyone. For almost 70 years, I've had the pleasure and the benefit of visits to the Field Museum. It has sparked much of my excitement and much of my interest in the natural world. As the years have gone by, however, Connie and I have been increasing our involvement and our support of the conservation activities of the Field, because we believe that science-based conservation is crucial to the quality of life for future generations. So many of you who are present tonight are also helping the Field in conservation programs and other programs, and we hope everyone will give it favorable consideration. We deeply appreciate all that you do for the field, and we leave you with a sincere thank you for that and for this award. Thank you.
Cheers to all of you. And thanks.
Here, here, cheers.
Thank you. Cheers to all of you. Thank you.
Mom and Dad, congratulations. What an inspiration you both are to all of us.
Cheers, Connie and Dennis, congratulations. You have been such an inspiration to all of us, and especially your grandchildren.
Congratulations, and the work you've done there has been significant and meaningful.
Thank you guys for just providing that great example and inspiring us and by extension our kids, and we love you and congratulations.
I know we're all encouraged by it, and just I know hope that we can just carry on all the work that you've done, and we're so proud of you.
I'm so proud of you both, and I'm so proud how you as a couple have really modeled for all of us 1 + 1 = 3 philanthropy, right? Or really in your case, it's almost more like 1 + 1 = 3 to the third. So well done. Cheers. We love you so very much.
Wow.
Indeed.
Cheers.
Many congratulations again to the Kellers. I'm here today to introduce you to the new Associate Curator of Fossil Reptiles, Jingmai O'Connor. Jingmai has just started with us, and while she's new to the field, she is in fact a world-renowned paleontologist, and she's very kindly agreed to walk us through our collection.
Thank you so much, Julian. I'm absolutely delighted to be here in the fabulous Field Museum, standing below this wonderful model of Quetzalcoatlus, which is the largest flying animal of all time. And it is a flying reptile, so it does fall under my curatorial duties. However, it is much, much larger than the animals that I study. So I would love to take you through the exhibit and into the collections.
Great, let's do it.
Walking through Hall 29 of Griffin Hall's Evolving Planet, I think most people's eyes are drawn to these much larger dinosaurs. But for me, these smaller dinosaurs here are far more interesting because this is the subject of my own research.
So this is Archaeopteryx, which is a renowned fossil.
Yes, I'm so glad you recognized it. It is actually the most iconic fossil of all time. Archaeopteryx was discovered right after Darwin published The Origin of Species, and so it provided this perfect example of a missing link taxa, like the ones he spoke about in his book. You can see that it has feathers like living birds, so it was readily identified as a bird, but you see it has this long reptilian tail, which hinted at its ancestry being among reptiles. And what we now know is that Archaeopteryx and all living birds are very closely related to small bipedal carnivorous dinosaurs like the ones you see here. And actually, we have very similar incredible preservation in the Green River birds that Lance Grandy has collected, which I would like to show you next.
Oh, wonderful.
The Field Museum has the biggest collection of Green River fossils anywhere in the world. And if you look at some of these fossils, you'll see that they are just beautifully preserved. You have bones in articulation, meaning that the hip bone is connected to the leg bone. That's how I always explain it. And so these fossils are absolutely spectacular. However, the small stuff is not really what captures the public's attention, and I understand that. So if you come this way, we'll show you some of the really cool big things that don't fit in cabinets.
So these are some of the larger specimens, I guess.
Yes, so the big things are a lot more difficult to fit into cabinets, so we have to put them on big shelves like this, and you can see that we have to put them in these types of plaster jackets. It's kind of like when you break a leg and you put it in a plaster cast. We have to do the same thing to protect these specimens, because even though they're very big and we think of them as bone, petrified bone, they're still extremely fragile. If you'll give me a little bit more of your time, there's one more thing I would like to show you, and that's some of the really, really incredible preservation of fossils that include soft tissue that comes from our Green River Formation.
Oh, I'd love to see that.
Wonderful. Here we're looking at some Green River birds, and the reason I wanted to show you these specimens in particular is because of the exceptional preservation that you have that includes soft tissues. So most of the time when you think of paleontology, you think of a white skeleton weathering out of a desert, right? But actually in exceptional cases, we actually have soft tissues, most commonly feathers, but also sometimes remnants of organs like lungs or ovarian tissues. And these can tell us so much about the biology of these animals.
And this piece here?
Here you can see the wing feathers preserved, so you can see the primaries, which basically forms the main wing aerodynamic surface, if you will. But I bet you if we shined this under UV light, we would see other additional soft tissues there as well. It's pretty amazing, right?
Yeah, it really is. Well, thank you so much, Jingmai. It's been a real pleasure to go through these collections with you, and welcome to the field. We're thrilled to have you.
Thank you so much. The pleasure is all mine.
I'm learning a lot this evening, and I hope you are too. One of my favorite things about this place is the breadth of its collections and research, and the steadfast commitment of our scholars. Each of you watching tonight is integral to helping move this institution forward. From restoring nature right here in Chicago, to conserving nearly 30 million acres of rainforest in the Amazon, to improving the quality of life for people all over the world, field museum scientists are finding solutions to the problems facing our planet and its people. But don't just take my word for it.
When it comes to the Earth, there's a lot to marvel at, a lot to uncover, a lot to learn. From the stardust at the Earth's beginning to the rise of civilizations, from the deep sea to the rainforests and beyond, each day we're out there exploring all our world has to offer. Our scientists and researchers journey to deserts, jungles, and cities around the world, getting their hands dirty, their feet wet, and their arms bitten. All in the service of science, brought to vivid life through our collection of almost 40 million artifacts and specimens. A collection that both tells the story of life on Earth and fuels discovery about how the future may unfold. But we're only beginning. Every moment something new is being discovered. A new species, a new mystery, a new problem to solve. Driven by the planet we all call home. There's work to be done, and we're on it. Earth, we're on it.
Many of you are already generous long-time supporters, and some of you may be learning about the extent of the museum's programs, collections, and worldwide impact for the first time this evening. I invite you all to help us carry this important work forward. Please click the button on your screen or visit the link in the description of this video to make your gift. Thank you for your support.
So it wouldn't be a gala without gems, and I'm happy to be here with Jim Holstein from the Robert A. Pritzker Center for Meteorics and Polar Studies. Now, Jim is one of our specialists in everything that shines. Where are we off to, Jim?
We're off to the Gem Vault tonight. Are you ready to see some sparkly objects?
I certainly am.
Well, let's take a ride.
All right.
So we're going into a high security area right now. What's special for tonight, we have a security escort to show us the way. So now we're in the vault room. And I'm going to open up the vault and we're going to see some of our treasures of the Field Museum. These are objects that are not in the Gem Hall, obviously. We redid the Gem Hall in 2009. But gems have always been a part of the Field Museum. And these are some pieces that we got since the opening of the Gem Hall in 2009.
Oh, that's absolutely beautiful. So what is this, Jim?
It's a combination of diamond and tourmaline. And this particular one has a matching ring to go with it. So gemstones are basically minerals that have been cut and polished. So anything that's been reworked from nature is a gemstone.
So we've been collecting for a very long time. There must be some really interesting acquisition stories.
Yeah, in some cases, yes. For example, we're still learning a lot about our collection. So this piece has been in our collection since the 1920s. And it looks like a magnifying glass, correct?
Yeah.
Push the button.
Oh,
and realize that they're reading glasses. So another interesting acquisition that we got is this tourmaline necklace.
Wow.
So this necklace dates back to the 1930s, and this was purchased at auction from the Rockefeller family. And this is one of my favorite pieces simply because it's so over the top.
That's as blingy as you get.
That's as blingy as it comes. This is a white gold necklace with saborites, and those are green garnets.
Oh, wow.
So this is a topaz, a blue topaz.
Wow, that's enormous.
Yes, it's an enormous one. And we have a larger one that's actually on display. It's called the Chalmers topaz. Want to go up and see some of those?
Sure.
Okay, let's do it. So here we are in the gem hall. This is where we have the best of the best in our collection. We have over 800 specimens in the gem hall itself. And it's all divided up by what type of mineral it is. Typically, the Women's Board Gala, this is one of the favorite stops. It's usually open during the gala, but this year, of course, it's not going to be open. So I hope that we're able to enjoy this space for everyone at home this year.
Well, Jim, I'm sure everybody's enjoyed this absolute treat of having you guide us through the galleries. So thank you so much.
It's been my pleasure.
The gem collection is a treasure, and I'm delighted Jim offered us a closer look at the Granger Hall of Gems, which I encourage all of you to explore on your next visit to the Field Museum. There is little the museum does that the Granger Foundation hasn't helped make possible. The Field Museum is fortunate to have a dedicated community of donors. We could not do what we do without your philanthropy. It's what makes this place so special. If you haven't already, I hope all of you watching will join this community, supporting the work of the scholars you have met this evening and the collections integral to their work. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Beth Glass. I hope you're enjoying tonight's program. I am proud to lead the Women in Science Luncheon in 2021 with my co-chair, Jeannie Tisbo. The Women's Board created its Women in Science initiative to support the work of female scientists working at the field. Our board hosts an annual luncheon to celebrate the contributions women are making in STEM and conservation fields. What began as an effort to fund one fellowship is today a robust field museum community and series of programming. The Women in Science Luncheon funds 10 high school and undergraduate internships, a graduate fellowship, and a postdoctoral position. In addition to the internships and graduate research positions funded by the luncheon, the Women's Board elected to use Women in Science funds to support a female scientist on staff. We are honored Dr. Janet Voight is the inaugural scholar and is the Women's Board Associate Curator for Invertebrate Zoology. I am now pleased to introduce you all to Janet, who is joined by conservation scientist, ichthyologist, Women's Board Science Advisor, and co-chair of the museum's Women in Science Steering Committee, Dr. Lesley de Souza.
And that one is really cool, so show me that one again, because
okay,
that's
this is preserved in formalin to keep its texture right.
Wait a second, let's back up and let's introduce ourselves, sorry.
Well, I'll go. I'm Dr. Janet Voight. I have the extreme pleasure of being the Women's Board Associate Curator of Invertebrate Zoology. And my specialty is cephalopod mollusks, coolest animals on the planet.
Hi, I'm Dr. Lesley de Souza. I am the Science Advisor for the Women's Board and also the co-chair for the Women in Science Steering Committee here at the Field Museum. I am a conservation scientist with an expertise in Amazonian fishes. Actually, fishes in general, I just love. And super excited to sit here with Janet to talk about our different groups and learn more about cephalopods. So tell me more about,
This is the vampire squid.
Dude, oh my God!
Take a look at that mouth. When it's alive, it's chocolatey brown, and it can pull its arms and its web over itself, so it's cloaked. And that's why it got the original name vampire squid, because he was like this. What do you got to beat that fish, lady?
How about vampire fish. So this is a vampire fish from the Amazon.
I see those two incisors.
But the really
there.
cool thing about these incisors, they
my
actually
God.
have two sockets that go into their nostrils.
And they wind up inside the skull?
Yeah.
That's such a problem.
Anytime you find them out in the wild, they're just like, they kind of lay sideways sometimes, and they're like grabbing their prey. So they have these like huge these fangs, and they open wide and they just kind of snag their prey as they're swimming by. Well, tell me what cephalopods eat. Tell me some of the interesting things they eat.
They kill and eat other animals. They can eat clams and snails. This is the deadly blue-ringed octopus. It is the deadliest cephalopod in the world.
Oh, wow. This little thing?
If it injected you, it would deliver a neurotoxin in about 15 minutes, would circulate through your body and start to shut down your nervous control of your diaphragm. Are there any fishes that can bite you and inject venom?
We do have a super dangerous fish that you find in the Amazon basin, which is an electric eel. And this is a smaller specimen of an electric eel. An electric eel can emit a voltage of about 100 volts. They have two electric organs, one that stuns, and I felt that many times. They're around and they're like, hey, back off. So that's the first organ, and the second organ, the hunter's organ, is the one that can emit that like huge, like strong punch and kill somebody. Give me an idea about how big, like the biggest octopus is.
Well, you know Stanley Field Hall there at the Mastaba? And you go into our exhibit, What is an Animal? There's a giant Pacific octopus hanging there, 18 feet across.
Whoa! Are you
Historically
serious?
accurate.
Well, let's get back to the gala and to the program. We're excited to watch the rest of the program, and hopefully Janet's going to cook some calamari for me.
We'll have some salmon croquettes to go with that.
Oh, maybe so. That sounds great.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Linda Williams, member of the Field Museum Women's Board and co-chair of its Outreach Committee. It is a privilege to introduce a very special guest, Dr. Jane Goodall. More than 55 years ago, Jane Goodall arrived at what is today Tanzania's Gombe National Park to begin her pioneering chimpanzee behavioral study. In the last 5 decades, her scholarship and mission have evolved into a personal quest to empower others to make the world a better place for all living things. In 1977, she established the Jane Goodall Institute, a global organization with 30 offices, supporting the research at Gombe, in addition to innovative, community-centered conservation and her Roots and Shoots education program. In 2018, Dr. Goodall celebrated her birthday, April 3rd, with the Field Museum as keynote speaker for our annual Women in Science Luncheon. It was a privilege for me to be a part of that program and to witness Dr. Goodall interacting with 45 grateful young women from Chicago Public Schools. The students who met Jane shared moving feedback with us. One described her experience as a life-changing opportunity, reinforcing her desire to become a scientist and earn her PhD. Another student shared that Jane inspired her to keep fighting for her dreams and helped her realize she had the strength to overcome racial and gender barriers to become an engineer. Dr. Goodall has made a difference in the lives of these and countless other students through her example as a scientist and her extensive global outreach. On behalf of the Field Museum Women's Board, I am delighted to welcome Jane Goodall to this year's gala program. Dr. Goodall.
Thank you, Linda. And I'm so delighted to have been invited to join you virtually for this event. And thank you so much, Steve and Jessica Sarowitz, for inviting me. Chicago is kind of special in my life. And I think most of you know that from 1960 I was studying wild chimpanzees in Tanzania in Africa, learning about our closest living relatives. And then in 1986, everything changed, and it changed in Chicago. I helped the then director of the Chicago Academy of Sciences, Dr. Paul Heltney, to put together a conference inviting all those scientists who by then were studying chimpanzees across Africa. Initially, it was just me, to a conference to discuss behavior. We had a session on conservation, and it was absolutely shocking to see how forests across Africa were disappearing and chimpanzee numbers were decreasing. I went to that conference as a scientist, and I left as an activist. I knew I had to do something. Since that time, first of all, traveling around Africa, learning firsthand about the problems faced by not only the chimpanzees, but so many of the Africans living in poverty with lack of good health and education and degraded land. And as I was learning about these things, I was traveling further and further around the globe, talking about what we could do to make a difference and learning more about what we are doing to harm our planet. And so 2 years ago, I celebrated my, I think it was 84th, maybe, yes, 84th birthday in the Chicago Field Museum. And now I learn that the exhibition, Becoming Jane, the evolution of Dr. Jane Goodall, it's called, was put together by the National Geographic Society and the Jane Goodall Institute. I haven't seen it yet. I was meant to see it earlier this year, but of course, because of the pandemic, I've been grounded, and I've been spending time here in the house where I grew up with my sister and her family ever since the pandemic began, reaching out to people virtually instead of traveling. And so I haven't seen this exhibition yet, but I have virtually seen it. And it sounds absolutely amazing. It's a multimedia exhibition, and it shows, sort of re-encapsulates my early days at Gombe when I shared an ex-army tent secondhand with my mother. And there's a 3D replica of that tent. And there's life-size holograms, including of a chimpanzee and me. And you can also learn about the current work of the Jane Goodall Institute. So I hope that visitors will get inspired by the wonder of the natural world and want to help protect it. And as they learn about what we are doing, we are trying to improve the lives of the people living in and around chimpanzee habitat in 7 different African countries, starting in Tanzania, helping them understand that protecting the forest isn't just for wildlife, it's for their own future, helping them find ways of making a livelihood without destroying the forest that is their home. And they have become our partners. And visitors will learn about our program for young people, Roots and Shoots, that's now in 65 countries and growing, involving young people from kindergarten through university in projects to make the world a better place for people, for animals, and for the environment. And also learning that more important than the color of our skin, our culture, our religion, our language, our nationality, is the fact that we're all one human family. Natural history museums are very important places. They've played an extremely important role in my life. When I was saving up money to take that first trip to Africa in 1957, I spent hours every lunchtime and many days at the weekend in the Natural History Museum in London, learning as much as I could about Africa and African animals. And I think it was the fact that I knew so much from those days in the museum that encouraged Louis Leakey, my mentor, to offer me the opportunity of working for him in the Natural History Museum in Nairobi, where I learned even more about African animals. And so, as I say, these natural history museums have been very important for me, and they're important for everyone because they can help people understand the magic of evolution, the diversity of life forms on this planet, and the importance of trying to protect the environment. You know, we're still struggling in parts of the world with the pandemic. It's caused so much suffering and disruption of economies. But the tragedy is it's partly our fault. We've been warned about this by those studying these zoonotic diseases that jump from animal to human for years and years and years. It's due to our disrespect of the natural world and our disrespect of animals, creating environments where it's easy for a pathogen to jump from an animal to a person. We shall come out of this pandemic, we always do, and then we shall be facing something that's been going on for years and years and so often ignored, but we cannot ignore it anymore. And that's the climate crisis, a much worse threat than the pandemic. And we need to get together, and we need to get together now. We've still got a window of time. So, yes, I'm still hopeful because of this window of time. And it's the young people around the world, they're rising to these new challenges. They're understanding about them. We're listening to their voices. We're empowering them to take action, as in our Roots and Shoots program. And I'm also inspired by the human intellect. We are finding ways that we can stop using the fossil fuels that are polluting the environment with CO2 emissions. And we can have clean, green energy if we will only subsidize it rather than the oil and gas companies. And there are so many new technologies that will help us to live in greater harmony with the planet. And then there's the resilience of nature. Back in the early 90s, when I flew over the tiny Gombe National Park, what had been part of a great equatorial forest stretching across Africa was a tiny island, a forest surrounded by completely bare hills. But because we began working with the people, they've now become our partners in conservation. You won't see bare hills anymore. And you all know places that have been restored, places we destroyed, and where nature, when allowed, will come back. There's the wonderful project in Chicago along the river. I've seen it. And this is what's happening all around the world. And endangered species are given a second chance. So all of these things are you can learn about them in the natural history museums and then follow up and learn a great deal more. So I again wish that I could actually be with you, but here I am virtually, and I hope that I can come back and meet some of you once I'm allowed to travel again. And I'm absolutely sure that this exhibition is going to leave people inspired and feeling that call and urge to do something about it. And we can all do something every single day. Make choices, thinking about how they may affect future generations. And gradually together, we can make this a better world for all living things. We must act now.
Thank you, Dr. Goodall. What a treat it is to see you again and to have your endorsement of tonight's event. And to all of you at home, thank you for joining us and supporting Field Museum programs that make our world a better place.
Well, it has been quite the evening. From octopuses to opals, I've learned more than I thought possible in 1 hour. I hope you've enjoyed the program and will consider supporting the work of the scholars you've met tonight and their colleagues who work in Chicago and around the world. We need your support this year more than ever, and remember, Your gift tonight will be matched by our generous $100,000 donors, doubling your impact. As our evening together comes to a close, I'd like to thank you all once more for being with us. Our doors are open again, and we hope to see you soon. Until then, good night from all of us.
Hi, my name is Ella. Glad you guys could come out tonight. Can't wait to see you guys back at the museum.
So glad to see you guys tonight. Hope to see you guys back at the museum soon.
Thanks for watching. Hope to see you at the museum.
Thank you for your support. It helps keep our doors open.
Thank you so much for your support for the Field Museum. Sorry I'm not going to be able to see you at the gala this year, but I hope to see you back at the museum soon.
I want to say thank you for your support, helping keeping the museum open and helping our door open to the public.
Just want to give you guys a big thanks for myself, and I hope you guys have a great evening and enjoy the whole rest of the night. Thank you.